Hello, friends. Humphrey, you gotta leave me alone. My cat is just very, very demanding right now of attention. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Um, People are already talking. People read the description of the video this time. Oftentimes they do not. But Yoav noting the use of Hineni in my description. Behold me, or as you read it in English, here I am. I'm just going to put on 5 minutes. Meet me back here. Or if people are here sooner, then I'll start sooner. How about that? I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, buddy. My cat is just really having a problem with this meeting today. But I'll see you in 5 minutes with your Bibles. 1 Samuel chapter 3. You know what? I'm here. Sandy, is this what you wanted? You wanted to see the big boy? Here he is. This is Humphrey. Oh, there's Sandy. This is
Oh,
Humphrey. He's enormous. He's the big
hi,
boy.
Humphrey.
He's the tuxedo cat. Yeah. Humphrey,
How are you?
Humphrey, come over here. Come over here, buddy. Buddy. He's gone. He demands very specific attention. He's a very large, I don't know to what extent I've talked about how Humphrey is a large gay man. That's just, he's very well dressed. It's part of the cultural value. But he's wearing a tuxedo, very affectionate. He is a little babe. He's a baby. He's not a little baby. But you know what? My 5 minutes. I'm not going to wait 5 minutes anymore. You guys come. You are punctual. All right. Unless is this a problem? Can you hear him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I gave him drugs right before I went on, hoping that would be enough for him. No,
You drug your cat?
like catnip. Like I gave him the catnip.
And that's supposed to calm him down.
Does I don't know. Now I guess maybe he wants me to put on techno music or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sandy, Cassandra, how are y'all?
Oh, great.
I'm okay. I have seen my doctor. I have lifestyle changes to take care of.
Okay. Do you want to share any of that or no?
Oh, just the usual. Get more diet, get more exercise. Mediterranean diet would be far better than what I have. Iron's okay. Cholesterol. And get some vitamin B12 shots for 6 months because, like my vitamin D, they are low.
If you are watching this and you are a human, you are low on vitamin B and vitamin D.
Pretty much. That's it. Yeah.
The odds that you have enough of either of those two is so low. Just take them.
You say that as a Canadian, though. Like you're up there. Because I mean, I don't think I had low vitamin D levels until I moved to North California.
Okay. It's like something like 80% of the population is low on one of those things.
Well, we spend a lot more time inside too, so
that's big part of the problem.
Yeah. Yon God, hello. Hello.
It's good to know the boomers say that, because quite honestly, it's been all the kids that in Jacob's channel that have been lecturing me.
All the
outside do things.
Oh, because he's on a boomer rampage?
No, for 2 years they've been that's been a saying. Touch grass. So why are you sitting here?
Right. Get outside, all that stuff.
Yep.
Cassandra, how is Cassandra doing? Is your doctor telling you to take things?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen my doctor in a while. I don't really like going that much, so I usually go like once or twice a year. But
that was the opening line. Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I got it. Oh,
well, I don't know what the way you're supposed to go to the doctor. After my last time at the doctor, I didn't realize I was supposed to make the follow-up appointment. I thought they did that. And so now I have to call back and wait like another month or something until they can see me. Oh, he's huge. He's a tuxedo?
Yeah, tuxedo. So he's black, look, and then the white shirt with the white cuffs.
Very elegant.
Very elegant looking cat. That's what they call that.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't spoiled enough,
though. You're not spoiled enough, though. My dad made me feed our cats sardines. Anybody who wears a tuxedo should at least get sardines occasionally.
He gets wet food twice a day, and he has to have special pee food because he's a boy who has urinary tract problems. Yes.
How old is he?
He's 9 now. I have a 9-year-old dog and a 9-year-old cat. Yeah,
he's like middle-aged.
Yeah. Yes. Michael, I waited to see your video before I added you.
What video?
So there's been problems with bombers, and some of them are even taking on the names of people in the chat.
Really?
So Kurt never shows his video. So Kurt, if you come out, I got to see your face or I'm not adding you, man. I'm not going to risk it. The person impersonating Yon God, it was fascinating. I didn't even know what I was seeing. Did you guys see it?
No, I wasn't on.
Okay.
I know. I was like, I had to look close because I was like, what am I looking at? I thought it was a shrimp or something.
Yeah.
I have no idea what.
Yeah. Imagine if you wrapped a hot dog in wire. Basically what it looked like. It was very confusing. Anyway, people aren't here for conversations about this. They're here for the Bible, guys. Sandy, please stop being so
getting us off track.
Yeah. Keep us on track.
I apologize. I was actually on a stream a year ago and was one of 2 people whose name got used to sneak in. Yeah.
Wow.
So I have a lot of sympathy for you on that.
I understand. Okay, Michael, I let you on this stream, but you be nice to Sandy, okay? Be nice to her, okay? Don't say anything mean.
At least not till I've had my B12 shots.
Sorry, Michael made an excellent video on boomers. A lot of people did not understand what it was really about, which is what it's really. Michael's major concern is that everyone repent and turn towards Jesus. Right, Michael? That is your major concern.
Yep. Yeah.
And with every single generation, you think that they might have like pet sins, like a thing they specifically have to get over. Would this be correct?
Probably. I mean, there's definitely a spirit of the age. So as that varies, there's going to be a particular trend, I guess. That I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just probably the differences between every generation are that we're messed up because of your mistakes, and you were messed up because of your parents' mistakes, and they were messed up because of their parents' mistakes. But it's like a weird reaction every time. So it's like every generation something gets like flipped around the opposite. So
Yeah.
I have been unimpressed by this since a very young age. My sister at 14 announced that I was over the hill. I was 17. So I am so far over the hill that it's irrelevant. Just for fun, I also did an age thing. Somebody in Jacob's channel on Discord. We were chatting. Anyways, we came out with the after you did all the funky math in terms of age. When I met my partner who had died, and this and that and back and forth, regardless of what chronological time said, he decided I was 26. So you guys are old.
Yeah.
And
at some point, I realized, Michael, I know you're going to relate to this as someone who's on the spectrum, which is when I was younger, I was told that I was an old soul, and it took me a really long time to realize what that meant was you're really bad at being a child. Because I was always like this, and when I was in grade 6, that was not cool. People were not interested. When I am like 87, people are going to be like, that old man's great. But as a child, it was like, that kid's a weirdo.
My youngest son was born a little old man. Even the nurses in the delivery room commented on it.
I love how children are dressed like the elderly, how we put them in like the women are in these like giant fur coats with a matching hat and the boys all in bow ties. The little tiny old people that we have are wonderful. Okay, guys, all the wrenches. Andrew, this is one. Is there anyone who doesn't have the look, everyone on the chat right now are Christians. So we believe that the chosen people is now everyone. So everyone gets a wrench. Okay. Bible. Cassandra. Very famous section of scripture. Chezi is going to be so interested in the topic that he's going to stop lurking and come on. Yeah, we got other people saying Hineni. Okay. Cassandra, please.
Now the boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord in the presence of Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no frequent vision.
Pause. The word of the Lord was rare in those days. There were no frequent visions. There is a connection within these stories between seeing and hearing. We think of those as separate things, but the word of the Lord is something which physically appears. The word, the logos, is something which is seen. Okay? Kezi says he's working, multitasking. Yes, but there's not too many frequent visions. The last chapter we had a prophet who says a thing or two. But besides that, we don't have frequent visions. It's been rare. It's been years. Continue. That's all I have to say, unless anyone has a comment.
At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim so that he could not see, was lying down in his own place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel, and he said, "Here I am," and ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call. Lie down again." So he went and lay down.
Just to be clear, that's Hineni. That's when he hears the voice, Hineni, which I like when it's clunky translated, behold me. That's like literally what Hineni would be translated into English. Like if someone calls your name and you just turn or try answering the phone that way, behold me. Look at this. So the word of Hashem was rare in those days. There were no frequent visions. At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim. That to me, it's connecting these two things. What does this function in the text? Except to connect the idea that people are not seeing God and that their high priest is blind. Right? Still use that as an insult to someone who isn't paying attention. Like, what are you, blind? Are you not seeing what we're seeing, right? We saw the way he reacted towards his children, and it's as though what he is like is physically is what he's like spiritually. His eyesight had begun to grow dim, so that he could not see who was lying down in his own place. Thoughts on that? Or just agreeing with me? Yes, Dave, that makes a lot of sense.
I
Well, I
noticed
think the
right
important
away.
thing.
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, the important thing to remember is that Eli here, he's a baby boomer. And
What did I say? You got to be nice to them boomers while you're on here. I will have no hate crimes on this channel.
no, well, I just will say because it's connecting it to the, the parallel, the same words or whatever is with Isaac. When he's wanting to give the blessing to Esau, and I don't know how. I mean, I guess because Rebecca gets this prophecy while the babies are warring in her womb that the younger is going to serve the older, or the older is going to serve the younger.
He was making an excellent point.
He was.
The boomers took him out.
Yeah. Boomers took him out. Okay, Michael. So older serves. Older will serve the younger. Continue.
Yeah. So it's just like, well, did Isaac know about that? Like, was he like, okay, I'm on board with that? Like, I mean, if you think about it, in a lot of ways, like, it would have made sense probably even to Isaac that Jacob should be the one in charge because he was the one who was around. Esau was always out in the woods. Like Isaac, Jacob was learning the patriarchy, I guess you could say, in some ways. But like, in his old age or whatever, being sentimental, he kind of gets off the path, So God has to trick him into doing the right thing, basically.
How does that relate to this passage?
Well, just because it's this thing of like Eli's with his loss of vision, and it's because it's coming to him. It's the relation that he has with his sons, where he's because that's what he's really blind to is all their wickedness,
Yeah.
And he's
blindness is sometimes just getting older, and sometimes it's related to a spiritual thing. Yeah, I didn't understand this either, Dawn, until I realized exactly what Michael was saying. Rebecca is told when she's pregnant that Jacob is actually the one. Yeah.
When I was reading about Jacob and Esau, I found something where it said that the prophecy she's given is written in a very vague way.
Yeah.
So the way you translate it is, it becomes, Jacob's the one. But the original Hebrew, it could have been a flip. Either the younger will serve the older, or the older will dominate the younger one. Or I forget how it was phrased.
And it's also related to Genesis 3. So Esau's nickname is Adam, right? Edom is, if you just look at the Hebrew letters, is the same as Adam. He disguises himself by putting on animal skins. Jacob is described as smooth. There's a creature which is known for being especially smooth. And then the eyes being opened, the eyes being closed, the temptation related to food, the selling the birthright for the lentil stew, So even that he's tempted with food, for this reason he's called Adam. There's a lot. Okay, but we should stay on this particular passage. Sandy, yes.
So, yes, I do agree with you about the eyesight. But I noticed that right away when we were reading it. The other thing from there was it kind of gives that clue is that it says the lamp of God had not yet gone out. I don't know.
She caught it. Good catch.
Well, that's what I'm just going to say is that I've missed it a bunch of times when I read it, but I noticed it today.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just said it by habit, but today I actually noticed it.
Yeah.
And so dim, like no frequent vision, dim eyesight, the lamp not yet gone out. There's a whole theme of what God is saying there in this.
Yes. Yeah. Not frequent, but there's still something. His eyesight had begun to grow dim. Like there's in ancient thinking, your eyes gave out light. We've spoken about this before. So the responsibility of seeing was on the person. The idea that your eyes were like a lamp shining forward so that you could see the world. Yeah, there is a midrashic, I know it's in the Talmud, idea as well that the last light that would go out in the menorah was the light which was closest to the Holy of Holies. So you can imagine the Holy of Holies. Okay, how do I position this? You have the Holy of Holies, and then you have the candelabra. It's not candles, but you know what I mean. The seven little mini lamps on the one lamp. One's closer, one's farther away. And the idea was that the light would be the last light to go out would be the one closest to God's presence. So I don't know if that's related. This idea of like that was considered a good omen when that last light was the light which was closest to God went out. He gets up. Okay, this is an idea that one of my professors put in my head. We'll see what you guys think. Old people have to pee in the middle of the night. And so my professor thinks that this was a very common occurrence, that at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, or in the middle of the night, it's just like, Samuel, I need help, please. To the bathroom we go. And so that's why he's very used to getting up in the middle of the night. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on?
Well, I had one more thought about the dim vision thing, like, and the dim eyesight and the no vision. You know, when somebody loses their sight, like they can still navigate the world to a certain extent, like with their hands and things like that, but all they have to like visualize is their memory. And so, you know, like I was thinking about, you know, like sometimes you go to like the grocery store or something and they have like weird new fruit, like they have like yellow watermelon now. And it's like,
right.
And it's like, if you've never seen a yellow, if you have gone blind, but you used to know what watermelon looks like, you would just assume it's all red watermelon. You could be eating yellow watermelon and you wouldn't know. And you're just going to say, no, watermelon's always red. There's no such thing as yellow watermelon. You know, and it's kind of like that. They're not, if your eyes are dim and closed, you're not receptive to new words from the Lord, I guess.
Well, related to this, I saw. I was taking a Greyhound from Toronto to Windsor. Windsor's my hometown, and while I was waiting, I would sometimes start up conversations with just random people. And there was this goth girl who was blind that was sitting there, like sitting next to me, and I struck up a conversation with her. And I asked a question I've always wanted to know the answer 2, which is, do you see in your dreams? Now, before I give the answer, I'm going to ask you guys your opinion. Does she see in her dreams? Some people have asked this information, so I'll just give it first. She could see until she was about 5. But now she was like 20. Could she see in her dreams? Go ahead.
I'm gonna say yes.
We got a yes from Michael.
I don't know if it would be the same as other people see, but I will also say yes.
Okay. Cassandra.
Probably depending on how blind she is currently too.
Well, so she was born with one eye, and then she lost the ability to see out of that one eye by the time she was like 5. Okay, I have always related the dim eyes to lack of hope or future. Can't see the next steps in front of me, but I don't know if that applies here. It's just how I see it when Moses looks at the land of Canaan. This is good stuff. It's good stuff. Jason is a very smart guy. He was hoping to be here, but couldn't today. She couldn't see in her dreams. Could not. And I talked to her about it, and at the end of that conversation, I realized I can't see in my dreams either. You're not using your eyes. It's just, I can't see my cat right now, but I know exactly what he looks like. And when I think of him by, like, the number one way I think of him is by what he looks like. Right? And so we project our ideas in our dreams, and our ideas appear to us as images primarily, which is why sometimes what you see in your dream will not match up. It'll be like, Cassandra, on today's dream, your father will be played by Sean Connery. And you're like, that's not what my dad looks like. But it's just like, yeah, but you're not actually seeing him. You're just projecting an image.
Dreams look like AI pictures.
Yes, dreams look like AI pictures. It's a great way of saying it. We're trying to visualize. We're doing a terrible job.
So when I close my eyes, I can't see anything. If somebody tells me to close my eyes and picture the room I'm in, that is very difficult for me. At the same time, when I was learning ASL, one of the things that was said that would indicate my success in learning the language was whether I could think in ASL or if ASL showed up in my dreams.
Yeah.
And so that's why I hesitated with my answer, because it depends what you mean by see. I'm going to say yes, because there is always this impression. It's not like I don't just have this conscious thought of words flowing through my dreams. There's an impression of movement, an impression of place, an impression of, that's as best as I get to, closest I get to seeing whether I'm awake or asleep. But it's not.
What Dylan is bringing up, Eli is not his father. And it's interesting because it was even brought up last week by Yosef that his biological father, Elkanah, is the one who prophesies a chapter before. In the Midrash, it gives a definition of, it gives the identity of that person. But yeah, it's his spiritual father, who isn't a good spiritual father. There's something deeply flawed there. And yes, Hezi, I agree. It wouldn't be appropriate for Moses to have entered the land. There's an issue with how we project. And I know what you were talking about, Sandy, because as I started learning Hebrew, even when I don't read the text in Hebrew, there's certain words that I still read as Hebrew. I was reading in English that Esau was a good king, though when he died, he had a disease in his feet, and he died. And I laughed. I laughed because in Hebrew, you could interpret that as he did get the clap when he was older, had a bad case of gonorrhea, but besides that, he was a good dude. that's how you could interpret it in Hebrew. And so even though I read it in English, the word feet made me laugh.
I remember this from studying Ruth.
Yeah. Is that then all of a sudden you're going to be like, wait, what does this mean? What is that? You know, you're going to giggle the next time they speak of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. It was their feet, okay? It was their feet. But see, the next time it happens in church, you'll laugh. Guys, please focus. Please focus, okay?
Everybody just stare at David.
Cassandra.
Okay. And the Lord called again Samuel, and Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call. My son, lie down again." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant hears.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place.
Perfect. That was real good. Real good. I'm noticing why Adam had the interpretation that he said. Eli calls him my son, which is very interesting too. My son, lie down again. Now, I love this line, like the drama of it. Now Samuel did not know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. This idea of like the inexperience, the not knowing how to respond, what to do, how to perceive when God is guiding you, is in the text.
You know, that's very interesting. Just talking about how like Hannah is used as the like example for like why you would have a baby dedication instead of a baptism, and this is like the same reason why like Baptists don't baptize babies. It's like, well, just because your parents are a Christian, it doesn't mean your kid knows the Lord yet. So it's like waiting for that personal experience. So
yeah, and it's interesting too because this opens up a whole can of worms of God speaking and acting in our lives, and that you could go your whole life with God acting continuously without you knowing that that's who was doing it. It's an interesting image. Anyone else?
I was wondering about Samuel laying down in the tabernacle.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. What, they don't have a place where this kid can sleep? What is going on where he sleeps
but
in the tabernacle?
Well, where was Eli sleeping? Wasn't it?
He had his own place, it said.
Did it?
Yeah.
It said Samuel lay down in his place, but it said Eli was in the tabernacle still because the light of the Lord had not gone out yet. But I was just wondering if that is something that Eli normally would do. And this is just like Samuel slowly taking over and becoming.
Is it the last duties that are supposed to take place within the tabernacle? Like, I don't know what those things are. It seems very strange to me. Though, again, this overlaps with the image that we were talking about before of like he is sleeping, like the image of a king, right? He's sleeping in front of the place where the king resides. He's sleeping in front of the throne room and hears the voice of Hashem, of God, speaking to him.
Yeah.
Has this ever come up before? Like, are there any other mentions of
people sleeping in the holy place? Not that I am aware of. We have Uriah sleeps at the door. Do I let Kirk in, guys? This is a real question. I'm going to go tiny. I'm going to let him in tiny. I'm going to get ready to remove him. Kirk, can I please get a hello from you?
Hello.
Okay, cool.
Is the reason you want to remove me?
No, Kirk, there's been people without cameras on that have been impersonating people in the corner so that they can bomb.
This is what I look like.
Oh, okay. It's a
I
good
can
face.
attest to that.
Yeah.
I have seen his face before. That is what Kirk looks like.
Okay.
I'm
Thank you, Kirk.
I'm not particularly handsome. That's why I don't keep the camera on.
It's a fine face. It's a good face.
Yes.
I've seen far worse faces.
No, I'm about average. But
This isn't the point. I just wanted to make sure that you were not someone trying to trick me so that you could show horrible images.
okay.
So, yeah. I prayed to the Lord of hosts before this Bible study that nothing inappropriate would occur. So I hope. A man can dream.
Either you can't. So one of my questions on the on whether Samuel was sleeping in the tabernacle, in a sense, that's his new home since he has left home.
Right.
Is that part of, like, where are our answers from our Jewish friends?
Yeah,
I mean,
I obviously too much.
He's in the comments. But...
Yes, he is. He says Eli is obsessed with the ritual and the ark. So there's importance about the rituals, what they look like, and his sons in the next chapter, again showing that God is king and his throne is taken. When God's throne, when the Ark of the Covenant is brought in, the Philistines say a God is in the camp.
Yeah,
they interpret the Ark of the Covenant as saying God is now in the camp.
David,
yes, Kurt?
Ask, do you know who Mircea Eliade is?
Yes.
So, one of the to my understanding, and I don't know as much about him, but I have listened to some Jordan Peterson lectures about him. His idea is like there's a conception all religions anthropomorphically, or not anthropologically, we're trying to distinguish between the sacred and the profane, and there's an idea of like there's the linear timeline we operate on, but there's the spiritual timeline which is more cyclical, and like in a sense the tabernacle, the ark and the temple and a lot of the biblical institutions were that sort of consecration of the sacred, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about how the sacred is used, how it's understood. Even a word in the New Testament, there's an expression which speaks of, it says bold, like saying your prayers boldly, and the word boldly literally means to not look at the feet. Because this idea of like when we're embarrassed or when we're asking for things and we are ashamed, we look down, we don't make eye contact. But we need to make sure that we don't do things which are sacrilegious, because that's what is the person who knows God personally and is able to, like Moshe, like Moses, speak to God face to face as a man speaks with his friend, right? That sounds sacrilegious, but he's the person who should and ought to, and it's good. So there's this push and this pull of the sacred and the profane, how intimate, and some of those images of intimacy has always been considered to be gross or sacrilegious, right? Your parents kissing, a child sees the parents being intimate and they go, ew, right? Or when you get accused and you're in kindergarten of liking someone, you react as though the thing is gross, right? Intimacy is related to disgust. Always has been.
Well, in Christianity more than Judaism.
I don't know. Yeah, this is a weird thing I will push back on. I agree. It's interesting, the idea of like finding this line, as I feel like the human error is so often to make like the fear of the sacred, and then to protect ourselves from our fear of the sacred by distancing ourselves from it with as many like rules and protective barriers as possible, to where it's like man's religion is the one that is over encumbered with uh rules and traditions, to the point where you have an extremely narrow like way of life prescribed to you. Whereas the original, what's the original delineation? One tree in the garden, one thing. That's one thing is off limit, and everything else is okay. Um, and I mean, I think that there's there's times where that balance does change, but um,
But even the conversation that's related of fluids, which will make one unclean, the
Yeah.
image of unclean in biblical thinking is so strange, because it's as though the things are holy, not as though like profane and holy is like this, like the fluids of life, blood and semen, to touch them make one unclean.
sure.
But
So
when speaking of which books were um, scripture, if you go into the Jewish sources, it says these are the books that to touch them would make the hands unclean. It's like holiness can infect you. It's like, and people do, they die because of God's presence in a chapter or a couple of chapters. People will die for looking at the ark, for being
yeah,
presumptuous, for touching
well,
the holy things.
but I mean, I think that's what the other thing that is about that is how much it varies based on intention. Why? Not,
Right.
it's not the things itself. It's the so much the intention behind it. Because like thinking about like, okay, with parents and stuff, like, and this is why I say a little pushback. It's like clearly there is a line that children should not see. Like children should not see what happens, after bedtime or whatever. But like they say, it's like one of the most psychologically healthy things for a child is to see their parents showing affection towards each other. And like, like, because that's the thing, like even if
Right.
kids say like ew gross, like because of kissing, it's like that's more cultural taboo. Like
Yeah.
kids, like then that's even what they see. Like it's really interesting. So they do a weird thing, because like with divorced parents, it's like the worst thing when kids see their parent being like kissing like a step, a stepfather, stepmother, like that creates conflict. But if they see their biological parents being affectionate towards them, it like builds the strength of the relationship between the child and the parent. So
Yeah.
um
No,
but
Michael, I think your points are very good. I do
yeah,
think it's a push and a pull, because there's things that David will do that are identical to things that Saul does. And
yeah,
Saul is bad for doing those things, and David is shown to be good, right?
yeah,
David eats the bread that is only for the priests, right? He eats the showbread. And it's like, is that okay? Was it all right that David did it? Is he breaking Torah? How do we understand these things? Right? These are, yeah. Okay. I think we should move on unless there's other things.
okay.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
sorry. Let me double check with Sandy and Cassandra. You guys are good for keeping us on track.
I was interested in the things, and as he just mentioned, Korah's again, Korah's crew again. I was interested in what he was sharing in the chat, in the number of he's got 3 or 4, a couple of points above that. And what I'm curious about goes to that thing of what is holy and what is not holy, and is holy something pure and unholy something impure. And when Hezi mentioned Eli's sort of obsession with the rituals, the ark, is putting Eli there to sleep. I mean, is that something that then pulls the ark into a place of impurity because it's like laying down at somebody's feet in a sense? Or is it something different than that he was referencing in terms of why the obsession with the ark and why putting Samuel in there was not cool?
I think the importance is in the question, so I'm not going to answer that. I think that is a great question, Sandy. Cassandra. Terrible job.
I almost went with that name, Cassandra. It's beautiful. Don't let him bug you about it.
I'm not,
And that's the open statement. I almost chose that name.
I have never met Cassandra in person, but I consider her one of my friends. So that's, she knows
Am I
this.
one of your friends?
Yes, Kirk, you're starting to be. We've only had like 2 interactions.
We've had like 4.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose you're right, but I've only seen your face twice. Cassandra, do you have any other thoughts before we continue?
Oh, I was thinking maybe even that Eli, it took him 3 times to understand what was happening to Samuel. It's like he's not even just blind now. He's losing his other sentences of hearing and seeing the visions. Because you would think the first time you'd think he'd be maybe more perceptive.
Yeah. I didn't call you. No. 3 times? That's very annoying. Also, it's really good with story structure, right? Bible has good story structure. A priest, a nun, and a rabbi, right? That's how the joke goes. So you want rule of 3. It's very important.
Or you
Yeah,
be a priest, a mom, a rabbi, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the way because even with the previous chapter that we read last week, I like the way they put Samuel's story in between the stories of Eli's son and Eli, like in between all these stories of corruption and decay. There's stories like Samuel, he was growing in God and he was beginning to serve the Lord and he was wearing the ephod as he's growing, and you kind of even see that now that Samuel is taking on these duties as Eli is slowly losing, I don't know, the ability to do it or something, or
and the image that I picked for this video, if you guys saw it, it's an image of the boy Samuel going, and he's like a really tiny child. He is minute, and he's indicating to Eli that it's God. The boy is pointing up. Am I able to share that one too? Let's see if I can. Come on. That's not. Okay, there it is. Share. This is the image that I particularly like. So you see the old man dressed in the priestly garment. Interesting, not wearing the golden crown though. And this is like how, I don't know how old you are picturing. Your mind's eye is picturing Samuel, but look, he's the one who's pointing up. It's a very, very interesting image. Now the artist is getting things wrong because we have a physical structure here, right? As though it says temple. It's interesting that it's saying temple because it's tabernacle.
Yeah. They loved anachronisms until the 20th century when people got really offended by them.
Yeah, I love anachronisms. They're so good. Okay, we're going to go back to the text.
Okay.
Cassandra is going to do a great job reading. Share. Where is it? There we go. Ah, there we are.
And the Lord came and stood, calling as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, for your servant hears.
Pause a second. What is the Lord doing?
He came and stood.
He stood? What? Yeah. Michael is like, yes, obviously, because this is the pre-incarnate Christ coming in physical form, having a conversation.
That wasn't my question, but go for it, Michael, if you wanted to.
No. Okay,
It's
sorry.
interesting that there's no like "don't be afraid" kind of thing described here when he's having this seemingly physical encounter.
Right.
So, stood. I've been thinking about that. I mean, I read the old book by Watchman Nee.
Just don't talk about his feet. Dawn, you are paying attention. What a great job. What a good joke that was.
So one of my favorite Psalms I say to myself this year is from like Psalm 1, you know, where it reminds me so much of Watchman Nee had that book, Sit, Walk, Stand. And the first thing I noticed when I read Psalm 1, I went, wait, why did he put them out of order? Because Psalm 1 talks about the righteous man. Blessed is the man who walks not after the way of the wicked, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the
seat of scoffers.
Yeah. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. So when it says that the Lord came and stood and calling as at other times, it didn't mention that he stood, that I'm aware of, in the first few times. But this time it does.
Yeah, it is a very interesting image, and it is related to God's action. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, here. Adam is throwing this in. I think I read that God standing means the world is shaking. It shows a sort of instability, which, let me tell you, is definitely what's taking place here. It's just, I want to land on this imagery because a lot of, especially post-Moses Maimonidean Judaism, really emphasizes God as non-physical. And sometimes the text, it is smacking us in the face with this image of God having a body. It seems like he does in some places. And so if there is actually a tension within the text, I want to emphasize that tension, even if there might be ways of resolving this tension. I want it to be present. Cassandra, read again, 10, but read the whole section, and I promise I won't interrupt you this time.
And the Lord came and stood, calling as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, for your servant hears. Then the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel at which the 2 ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. On that day I will fulfill against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house, from beginning to end. And I declare to him that I am about to punish his house forever, for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever.
Wow. Will not be atoned for by sacrifice forever. Okay, some fun stuff with Hebrew, just so whenever you see it, you'll know. There is no punctuation really in biblical Hebrew. So what you do to add an exclamation mark is you say something twice. If you say something twice, that means a surely or an exclamation mark, or it really emphasizes either someone is crying or yelling or calling. It makes the thing very, very clear. So an example of someone crying, oh, Absalom, Absalom, my son, right? Ilahi, Ilahi, my God, why have you forsaken me, right? There's various ones. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Samuel, Samuel, right? The thing is stated twice. Actually, another example of the surely would be the serpent says, you will not die. And it says surely die. In the Hebrew, it literally just has the word die twice. You're not gonna die. right? So that's rendered in English as surely die. I like it better as die. Because we still say that. It's just like, my wife's going to kill me if I do that. She's not going to kill you. It's going to be bad. Don't get me wrong. But yeah. Beautiful stuff. I love this also. 2 ears of everyone who hears it will tingle.
Yeah, it's just kind of like last week when there was that thing about if you sin against the Lord, who will intercede for you.
Yeah.
And then now he's saying that there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Sacrifice or offering. Because the implication here, and this might be controversial for the Jewish audience, it is saying that the atonement occurs through the sacrifices and the offerings. Because they would say, no, that's not actually how the things are atoned for, but it is here very clearly stating, like there's no sacrifice or offering that'll make you all right. Yeah. This is the message that he's given to go tell his boss / father figure, which is also intensifies it. My son, right? Go, my son. What is it, my son? That's who he has to tell these terrible things to. Yes, we are all doing well. Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say?
Nope. I mean, I haven't gotten a chance to read any of the Bible sections yet, so.
Okay.
But
Well,
if you want Cassandra to read, that's okay.
No. Well, I was going to ask Sandy next, but no, Kirk, can you read that? You want to read for us?
Sure.
Wonderful.
Samuel, from 15 to 18.
Yes, please.
Samuel lay until morning. Then he opened the doors of the the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. But Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he said, Here I am. And Eli said, What was it that he told you? Do not hide it from me. May God do so to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all that he told you. So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him.
Man, the language here, this is such good poetic language. Any of it standing out to people, what they might be noticing?
Yeah, well, we just finished Judges not that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, very Leonard Cohen-like.
Very Leonard Cohen-like. I like that. Again, Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. It's again like the drama of the connection between these guys. Calls him my son, and his response is the same way he was responding the night before. Hineni, here I am. What is it that he told you? Do not look. The language of hide. Hide is to not see. Right? The man who isn't seeing something. Do not hide it from me. He knows that it's going to be him being called to the mat. He knows what he's done wrong, and you can tell because what he says to make sure Samuel says everything says, may God do so to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all that he told you. Obviously, he knows that he's saying that as a threat. It only works as a threat if Eli is willfully blind. It's only a threat if he knows that he should be getting in trouble. Does that make sense? Is that connecting?
Yeah, that's understandable.
But then it makes the tragedy of all the scenes more. This is the kind of stuff that I bring in when Cassandra, you were speaking of how Eli related to his children. It's like we know he's willfully blind. We can see it in passages right here.
I mean, clean your room, like Jordan Peterson says.
Yeah. And he knows that he hasn't. He knows he's not unaware. He knows that if God is going to talk, it's going to be bad.
Well, this is one of the criticisms that not just Jews, but also to extent Catholics have of Protestants, that there's a problem of like, oh, you want salvation through faith alone, instead of getting your room in order first.
Right. And that you hit a certain point where, I'm sorry, if this is what you are doing with yourself, there is nothing left for you. Anyone? Other thoughts? Sandy.
Michael?
Mikhail?
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Cain and Abel, but like where God, speaks to Abel and not to Cain or whatever, and Cain kind of gets upset about it, but Samuel hears like knowing, or Eli's knowing like, hey, yeah, God picked you and not me, so let's you're the one that's kind of got the plan here. And the other thing that it kind of reminded me a little bit of is like with Joseph, when he gets like the visions that make his brothers jealous and stuff. And because it's like in the sense of like, because he's a kid hearing from God, and it's like, oh, this is the message I have. Like, I don't know what it means, or
Here's a fun thing to share with you. Yeah.
Like the, so that kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Hey guys, I had a dream yesterday. In my dream, God told me I'm better than all of you.
I am so sorry.
Maybe keep that dream to yourself sometimes. Eh? Yeah. Cassandra, anything else?
Oh, no, I don't think so. It's just when he says Samuel, my son, I guess he called him son in other places, but because this is kind of a negative situation, it almost reads like he's just using old man guilt against him to get him to tell everything.
Well, that's Adam in the comments is saying quite the manipulative language, to be honest. Right? Yeah. Okay. Sandy, you haven't read, so you're going to close us up. But also, we didn't make mention of this part. Oh, and I'm being called on it. Excellent. Verse 18 saying same thing twice probably means that Samuel was feeling coerced to say something. I like this. It is Hashem. Let him do what seems good to him. But this is also a reiteration of what happens the chapter before. God has already stated that this is what the man deserves. So it's like the repetition also makes it so that it can't be forgotten. He even accepts his fate.
Well, I was thinking a little bit of that when you were talking about his manipulation. I was thinking, and a little bit of resignation, and the fact that nobody really likes to suffer alone. So he's kind of calling him his son and kind of going, hey, you better spill the beans because this affects all of us, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Only it doesn't.
My son, it's a difficult one because is it intimate? Is it a position of authority? Is it all of these things are baked into the idea of someone emphasizing that? Hey, kiddo. Sandy, close us off in the reading. We'll continue talking, but read the last bit.
And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established as a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord.
Okay. Michael, anything jump out?
So I mean, well, so it's interesting. It's just basically telling us like there was a lot of stuff that we don't have the details on that, caused his, I don't know, not to say fame, but knowledge or whatever of Samuel and his position as a prophet to spread and grow.
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely, and this thing of like the way that he knows the Lord, it's definitely uh, shows him as like a very Moses-like character.
Yeah. Knowing God very personally.
Yeah, and being the leader, he's the leader of the nation, really. So,
Yeah. Kurt, anything stand out to you?
I mean, nothing in particular that Michael didn't already say. So,
Mm-hmm. Ladies, Sandy, you go first because you have the shorter name.
I don't know if it's significant, but I like in verse 19 that he says that the Lord was with him and let none of his words fall to the ground. Like anything God revealed to him, anything that Samuel shared from that did not go to waste.
That's beautiful, especially because Eli, the words were wasted on him. So that idea of, I love that image. Don't let them fall to the ground. That's a beautiful metaphor, to let someone's words fall to the ground, right? Like you're not holding on to them. And in Judaism, there's a notion that memory is tied to obedience. To be disobedient is to forget yourself, to forget, and that the feasts are directly designed so that we always remember who we are, right? And Samuel, as an obedient person, is the one who doesn't drop these things, keeps them all together.
out of curiosity, do you know any of sources for these Jewish concepts of memory? Because I don't know much about philosophy of memory, but
Yeah, so see it, Kurt, you'll be able to see it yourself if you go through Deuteronomy. Moses is speaking to a people that did not experience the Exodus because that generation dies in the wilderness. But he commands them to remember. Repeatedly, he commands them to remember. Remember, and he Hashem grounds the laws in them remembering that. Sometimes it'll say a law and then it'll say, I am the Lord your God. Right. And so this image of, you'll keep this, and by keeping this, you will be remembering that I am the Lord your God, and that things will be tied to remembering their story. You are going
this
to,
is not exactly, but this is sort of similar to the Eliaden conception of like by participating in a religious ritual, you're engaging in a sacred circular time.
yes. Yeah. So in Passover specifically, you gather and you act out as though it is the night of the Passover, and as though this has happened to you. It says, when your children ask, why are we doing this? The 4 questions. How you respond is that we, not our ancestors, we were slaves in the land of Egypt. Moses says to a people who were not brought out of Egypt in Deuteronomy, he says, not your fathers, but you did the Lord bring out of Egypt, which is a factually untrue statement. Because it was their fathers who were the generation that God brought out of Egypt. But the idea is, he is telling them, you are to remember these things as though they happened to you. And to be sinning is to forget that truth. That's when you'll treat the strangers poorly, because you've forgotten that you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Because remembering that is why you're good to them.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I still think about. I think often about this kind of memory. So my partner and I went through some tough times. He kept trying to send me away, he did, because he didn't think he was good enough to be in a relationship. He'd been married twice, and so the one time that he was not coping, he was away up north teaching, and I called him the one day, and he said, I cannot do. He was so, you could hear it in his words. He was just broken. He didn't have time, energy to talk. And he said, I can't do this. I just can't do this. I've got so much on my plate, and I can't do this. And I don't remember the details, but he basically said, I think we should break. I think we should separate. And I think through words, because often, like, technically, I didn't have a marriage document. As far as I was concerned, and we would talk that, we were married. Loyalty was big to him.
Yeah.
But the fact he didn't say, I think we need to, I'm sorry, we're going to break up. He didn't say that. He said, I think we need to separate. And I wrote a long letter to him saying, I understand where you're coming from and all these things. And, but here's the deal. My parents separated and eventually divorced, but we always looked out for each other as family. So I wrote a long letter about his husband. When he got back a few weeks later, it was maybe a month or so later, he showed up at my door, and what he said was, I need somewhere to watch basketball. And I thought, sure you do. But I said, yeah, sure. Okay, come on up. And during the week, during that time, stayed on my couch for a week. And he said to me on that one day, he was talking about things he was processing, his own faith, his own, where he was at. And he said to me one day, and it's not a question for me because I'm not Jewish in a way, but I remember it struck me that he said, how are you different because we went through the sea? And I remember thinking, that's interesting you're asking me that, because you're asking me from the perspective of how are you different because we went through the sea, and that's a Jewish question.
Yeah. And the Jews are considered to become a people once they are on the other side of the Red Sea. It's the idea. They officially really become a nation as opposed to these tribes on the other side of the Red Sea.
Yeah. And so when I look at words and language and memory and all the things you hold as part of identity,
yeah,
that particular year, what grabbed me was he said we need to separate, not break up, and that he asked how was I different because we went through the Red Sea. And one of the things he valued always throughout the whole thing, in terms of how he personally felt tested by being divorced twice, by all this stuff, was the unworthiness place,
right.
And that was the last time he went north again to teach, the last year that before he died. And I remember him saying, I really don't want to leave you behind this time, but you've got your job and this, and that, and I don't want to screw that up. And, like all the, what you don't want to screw up. And I remember him saying to me, I love you so much. I have no idea why I found that so hard to say the last 4 years. Why didn't I say it, And he said, we've been through tough things and we have built a strong relationship. When I look at some of the stuff that we are talking about here, what does it mean to have this kind of memory, and how important words and the language, there is so much said in not saying it right out.
Yeah, and there's an idea of the thing needs to be reestablished again and again, because in Judaism, memory isn't, well, I memorized this once, so I know it's in there. It's every single year we're going to act, similar to what Kirk was saying, we're going to act this out again and again and again. We're going to act it out to really get it inside of us, some of the concepts and principles of what we're talking about, right? My my wife got mad at me once because she said that she wanted, like, I used to wake up before her. Not the case anymore because now I'm working from home. But when I had to go into the office, she said I had to give her a kiss before I left. Okay, this is a reminding on a regular basis. And one time we were fighting and I didn't do it because I didn't think she wanted me to kiss her, and she was just like, "No, you have to before you go." And that's
Absolutely.
like, whatever else is happening, we have this overarching structure. Remember, even when we're in the middle of fighting, that this is how things are true. And she told me this one time she was asleep and I didn't give her a kiss because she was asleep. And she just wanted me to give her a kiss on the forehead, kind of a thing. And she said, "No, you have to give me a kiss on the forehead, even if you think I'm asleep."
Yeah.
It's important. And I like this idea because to some extent, I do believe that Jews who are secular, who are still practicing Passover, that they are fulfilling something in the world. I believe that my father, who was an atheist, who took me to church every single week, still did something good in acting out this memory that he didn't have. Wasn't something he truly believed or truly engaged with. But I was blessed by this. When I became a believer, I went, oh, these stories I heard were actually true. So now I grew up Catholic with a lot of legends in there that I was like, oh, that's not actually in the Bible. Okay, cool, whatever, right? A lot of, if you will, midrash that I didn't know wasn't in the text. And Michael, I think that some of the role of generations is one of these things that even if our parents may have been a lot more mucky middle, I think that in many of those cases, they preserved the faith of their grandparents, which they may not have even fully believed. But that memory got passed down because they at least acted out the truth of who we are.
There's a phrase that
Yeah,
came
well,
to me while you were sharing, and I don't know where it's from, but how things are written in the bone.
Oh, yeah. It's deep in you. Sorry, Michael, what were you going to say? Because Michael, I think you got it.
oh, well, I was gonna say, like with the generational thing, the way I see it, because the way I do see these, that like over the long span of history, is, sometimes the good things are forgotten a little bit, but we kind of don't have any idea how many bad things are also being like chipped away, and like God can bring the good things back, like essentially, it's like, because the good things are found in his word, so his word's always being rediscovered. But how many like generational patterns of bad habits and bad behaviors and things fall away? It takes a long time, I think. So it's like, I do see there's like something good going on in that process. So it's not um, where sometimes forgetting is good, because if 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 you're only right about half of what you know and think, then half of it needs to be forgotten and half of it needs to be remembered.
Right.
Sometimes you remember the bad stuff and forget the good stuff, but I think the overall trend is that over time it gets refined, and it becomes better. Like, I mean, maybe just think about like that, Tom Holland's book Dominion, and just saying like, when we look at everything through like this fog of Christianity now, and like we
Right.
have no idea like how brutal and how bad it was back then. Like, people were just cruel, and like did not. It was a totally different world, and we kind of miss that because so much of that bad habit has been chipped away over the generations.
Yeah. Yeah, Jan God was saying it's about continuity. No continuity looks random, and random things are generally disliked. Surprise. Yeah, the notion of inheritance. It's an interesting thing, because what I'm mostly waiting to get from my parents as far as my inheritance, I think of as money. whereas in the past it would oftentimes have been objects of significance, right? Like this would be in Judaism. There's like oftentimes a chalice for Kaddish that would be passed down, something like that. This is a connection, like literally for generations. Families would be eating with the same plates and things like that, right? Something beautiful that would be a connection to these things that helps us hold together who we are, right? How these things occur, how we create a sense of continuity. And oftentimes, and I guess this is a good place to end, with a character like Samuel, there will be oftentimes in families a character that makes everyone remember. So we don't really have that in my family. And so there are family members that I haven't talked to for like a decade, and I have nothing against them. But I like have not had a conversation with them in 10 years because we have no character that brings us all together. Yeah, and that's Samuel becomes a character that helps the people remember who they are. He is on the heels of the stories of Judges, a period of time where people are especially forgetful. He's going to help them remember who they are. But they're not there yet. They're still without a king, including God. They're without a king.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. If you guys want to end it off with a prayer or something like that, that'd be fine.
Cool. Yeah, I'll do that. Let me ask
have
everyone else before we go. Yes, Sandy?
I was wondering if Kurt meant he would like to.
I mean, I'll lead a prayer unless David wants to.
I don't know what is my responsibility here. Maybe you start and I'll finish. Cassandra,
Okay.
do you have anything you want to add before we end the stream?
No, I'm good.
What do you mean? How would I start and you finish?
Like you say a little. You never did this in youth group. You do a little bit of a prayer, like kind of you go about and people pray as led.
I never remember doing that. I might have, but anyway, our God, Lord of Lords, that which is in heaven, please grant peace and security, happiness and freedom to all the nations of the world, and may your truth shine as a light to the nations. And let us say Amen.
God, we ask particularly this week for us to be trained to hear your call and to respond in a stance of ready, in a stance of action, especially
Amen.
to bring about the hard things, the words that might be difficult to receive. We praise you as King. Amen.
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 Thanks, guys,
Just
for
one question
coming out.
but it's not a related to scripture. It's about the stream. I had the other day I was trying to get. So 2 days ago, or I think it was yesterday, Jacob had a just chatting stream, and I wanted, and they didn't have a StreamYards in the YouTube chat, so I wanted to know how do I get inside of those streams.
I believe on that one, he wanted to talk specifically with some specific people. So usually he posts the link, and if he doesn't, then he's just going about, because sometimes Jacob will also go on, talk for a while, and then drop the link near the end. If you ever go on Grail Country, that oftentimes occurs too, where Luke will talk for a bit and only add it like at the end.
Yeah, but you were part of it. Remember, it was I forgot it, who else.
So I asked if I could come on because Jacob has given me connection with his channel, and the same thing for Jason. So he did not make the link public, so only us who already had could enter on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also noting that you did say that you asked, and I believe Jason did too.
Yeah, we were in the stream, and I was just like, "Is it okay if I come on?" because he didn't drop the link. That's why I asked permission. If he drops the link, I'm just jumping on and giving him trouble. He jumps on and gives me trouble all the time.
You know, Dave. So, out of curiosity, what do you do professionally?
I am what is called an estimator. So, Cassandra, what do I do for a living? How do I always say it?
Okay, now you expect me to be an expert on your lore?
I
don't
do.
remember.
I do grade 5 math for a living.
Okay, because you seem like you're very well read, or at least pretty well read on like psychiatry and psychology and philosophy and stuff. I wonder if there's any like I was gonna ask if there's any like Jewish Girardian, like Rene Girard scholarship or anything like that, or his idea of like mimetic theory.
Nothing immediately comes to mind.
Because I know there's stuff about Carl Jung. Hezzy was telling me about that, about
Right.
Jungian scholarship.
Jung is a strange figure as well. There's some stuff about, I'm not fully convinced about some of the Jung stuff, because I think we need to realize that he's actually do I want to get into this? If Grimm is watching, he'll be happy. Carl Jung, his dad was a Freemason. He had all kinds of connections.
We don't need to go that deep into the lore.
Well, he talked to demons all the time or whatever. That's where he got his ideas. He was always talking to these spirits that were revealing themselves to him.
Well, and so if you get into, like, he writes books on alchemy. He writes books that are directly, like, when people think to yourself, oh, this is kind of like, do we need to get into these conspiracies about it? I'm sorry, but if we're going to understand someone who wrote books about alchemy and how those, he's making references to Freemasonic material. So yeah, we do need to know how he's relating to those concepts. You're not going to understand America without knowing a little bit of Freemasonic theology, because it was founded by more Freemasons than it was Orthodox Christians. Anyway, no, I don't have anything to say regarding that. No, I work from home doing grade 5 math for a construction company to create $1 million quotes for a window company, like jobs that they're doing. But then I get to plug in these earbuds and listen to whatever I want.
Okay.
Anything else before we close?
How's your cat doing?
My cat?
Humphrey? What was his name?
Humphrey, yes. So my wife had a cat named after Audrey Hepburn. So we had an Audrey. That's the cat who died. And I got to name the male cat that we got, and I named him Humphrey, after Humphrey Bogart, wearing the tuxedo. I really like Casablanca. Don't come at me. Casablanca's so good. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the stream. This was a wonderful time. Everything else has been post-prayer. Everything fell apart after the prayer, let's be honest. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you guys later. Okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye.